You know, I almost did a spoof on this a couple years ago. So, gonna do the 50s diners and the 70s roller disco and, point out that it's all this long lost stuff that we don't have anymore and it's Tatarian. Well, somebody finally had the chutzpah to go there. 1950s old world Tataria. There's no audio to it, so let me just kind of fill in the blanks. We start out with this car going down the street, and how did they learn to build cars like that? That's more advanced than we have today. Just look at the aerodynamics. And yeah, question everything, answer nothing. And then here was the big draw, I guess. There's this weird kind of octagon building here. And it's the comments that really got me to do the video here, because instead of people saying, wait a minute, now the 1950s are Tartaria, this is how the Tartaria devotees react. That octagonal cannonade tower is definitely not for cannons, unless they're sound cannons. If you find out it's sound cannons, then yeah, then it makes sense. So if it's super high tech, then yeah, I'll accept that. But just a regular old cannon, they were too dumb to build all that. This is seriously a disease, and if you haven't realized yet that people online are calling everything that existed before now Tataria for clicks, then if you don't get it now, there's no hope for you. Sorry. So then he shows the harbor, all these Tatarian boats, and then a big, huge ship leaving port, and like, OMG, this is the 1950s. I mean, how could they don't even have a building big enough to build that boat in. And then we got a parking lot, and seriously, there was just like 6 scenes in here. But it doesn't matter. Somebody will count the bushes and say, 33 bushes. And then we have a wide angle shot of that octagonal tower up above the harbor, making it look like it's probably a documentary from a historic light tower. But we got one shot in the dark here saying an octagonal water tower. It's got to be Tatarian. Why did they put windows in the water tower? And seriously, this is what I've seen done so many times. Somebody getting something wrong, and then because they don't understand reality, it must be Tatarian. It's mysterious. One example, I watched somebody spend 8 minutes on a photo of a building that was being dismantled. It was a big, huge skyscraper that they were taking apart, level by level. And the guy spent 8 minutes talking about that's not how you build a building. No, it's not. It's how you take one apart, though. Another one was a drawing of a salt mine, and they had left all these pillars in there as they're mining through so it wouldn't cave in. And they're sitting there going, why would you carve all of these beautiful pillars into here just for a salt mine? I mean, this is just to the point of digital black tar. I see hundreds of thousands of mines out there that are just melted, unfortunately. It frustrates me. But then the reply to the octagonal cannonade, unless it was a sound cannon. But I know, right? We laughed at that because that would mean that the cannons would be pointed into the city. Haha, those guys are just so dumb. They thought we'd actually fall for that. This explains this a lot more eloquently than I would. The Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias in which people with limited competence in a particular domain overestimate their abilities. The intended recipient of such orations are most likely cognitively disinclined to elucidate my meaning. But a possible resolution to the problem of pointing the cannons into the city is that it being right over a harbor, it could be a lighthouse. Now, granted, it may not be as eminent in stature as others, but those huge tall towers are built on flatland areas. This is up on a hill, and its only purpose is to keep the boats off the rocks. And here's the true insanity of this, is I have people talk down to me all the time because I just have cognitive dissonance and can't accept the plain, simple truth right in front of me. And anytime I ask for specifics, it's always stuff like this. So here's the next evolution of this this isn't real. They didn't really put on those uniforms and wear these diners today. 25-cent hamburger, you couldn't have had a 25-cent. That was probably for the whole meal. I'm seeing a bunch of dimes across the top. But no, these photos are staged. This was already there when they came along. Anyway, I just can't believe how bad the average intelligence out there has gotten. This is just ridiculous. Now, something that absolutely isn't what they think it is proof of a long lost civilization. Seriously, Meteor, just, yeah, I could point you in a certain direction if you want to know where to land. Anyway, I've actually been sitting here for an hour erasing every line I say afterwards because I'm not allowed to say anything that'll hurt anybody's fee-fees. And we're supposed to celebrate the uniqueness of this person's thinking. Who are you to judge somebody for being an absolute bonehead? It's not just the blind leading the blind. It's the blind getting paid and incentivized to lead the blind. Meanwhile, we're walking right off a cliff, but I can't even talk about that because I already got one denial. But this is just another confirmation that we got to be right here at the end. It can't go on much longer like this. Static out.